I was having dinner with my family when my son-in-law looked straight at me and said, loud enough for everyone at the table to hear, "Is this useless old woman going to eat everything again?" The whole table burst out laughing. My hand froze in midair. The fork stayed suspended between my plate and my mouth, trembling slightly between my fingers. For a few seconds, I could not breathe. I could not swallow. I could not even blink. I looked around the table. My grandson, Mason, smiled without lifting his eyes from his phone. My granddaughter, Lily, pressed her lips together, trying to hide a giggle. My daughter, Claire, my youngest child, my baby, lowered her eyes to her plate and said nothing. Nothing. And Marcus, my son-in-law, laughed the loudest. He sat at the head of the table, in my husband's chair, in my house, eating food served on dishes I had bought, under a roof I had paid for, and laughed as though he had just delivered the best joke of the evening. I slowly put my fork down. Then I reached for the cloth napkin beside my plate, the one I had embroidered by hand more than 30 years ago with my family's initials, and wiped my mouth with as much dignity as I could still gather. My throat burned, not from the food, from the words I wanted to scream but refused to give them. I stood up. "Excuse me," I said. No one answered. No one asked where I was going. No one asked if I was all right. As I walked away from the dining room, I heard Marcus chuckle again. "It was just a joke, Evelyn. Don't be so sensitive." Then someone turned on the television. A moment later, the laughter continued. I climbed the stairs slowly, one step at a time, toward the smallest bedroom in the house. The old sewing room, the room I had been sleeping in for 5 years. The room that had once held my fabrics, my patterns, my sewing machine, and the afternoon sunlight where I used to mend my children's clothes. Now it held a narrow bed that creaked every time I moved and a small dresser that barely fit against the wall. My real bedroom, the master bedroom, the room I had shared with my husband Henry for 42 years, now belonged to Claire and Marcus. I closed the door behind me. The sound of an action movie thundered through the floorboards below. Explosions, gunshots, men shouting, more laughter. I sat on the edge of my bed in the dark. The taste of dinner still lingered in my mouth, and in that room, with my hands folded in my lap, I made the most important decision of my life. No more. My name is Evelyn Rose Whitaker. I am 70 years old. I have 3 children, 7 grandchildren, and a story I never imagined I would have to tell. For most of my life, I was the woman who gave everything and asked for nothing in return. I was the woman who cooked for 20 people every Sunday. The woman who stayed awake beside feverish grandchildren while their parents worked double shifts. The woman who lent money without written agreements because family, I believed, did not need paperwork. Family meant trust. Family meant loyalty. Family meant you protected one another. Or at least that was what I had believed for most of my life. That Thursday dinner took place in the house where I had lived with my husband, Henry Whitaker, for 42 years. The same house where I raised my children. The same house where I had hung framed photographs of every birthday, every graduation, every baptism, every Christmas morning, every little victory that had once made this family feel whole. The walls were painted a warm terracotta color. I had painted them myself years earlier, back when my knees still allowed me to climb a ladder and my hands did not ache after holding a brush for too long. The dining table was solid oak. Henry and I had bought it with his first real salary as an engineer. I still remembered the day we brought it home. He had stood in the doorway with both hands on his hips, grinning like a boy, and said, "Evelyn, one day this table will hold our whole family." And it had. For decades, that table had held Thanksgiving dinners, birthday cakes, arguments, apologies, homework, tax papers, bowls of soup, cups of coffee, and so many memories that I sometimes believed the wood itself had absorbed our lives. But that night, sitting at my own table, I felt like an intruder. Claire had prepared chicken in a rich, dark sauce. She was a good cook when she had the energy, though exhaustion had taken so much from her face these last few years. She sat beside Marcus with deep circles under her eyes and her hair tied back in a messy ponytail. Marcus sat at the head of the table, Henry's place, my place, the place of honor. He occupied it as though it had always belonged to him. I sat near the kitchen in the corner, close enough to stand and serve whenever someone needed more rice, more water, more napkins, like a housekeeper waiting for instructions. Mason, 12 years old, and Lily, 9, were glued to their phones. They barely looked up when I placed food in front of them. Marcus wore a new shirt that evening. Expensive. Designer label. The kind of shirt that cost more than I used to spend on groceries for an entire week when my children were small. I had begun to serve myself a second portion. Just a little more. I was hungry. Though I hated admitting that even to myself. I had spent decades feeding everyone else first. Lately, even in my own home, I rarely ate comfortably. I always felt as if I were taking too much, occupying too much space, breathing too much air, using resources that no longer belonged to me. That was when Marcus said it. Is this useless old woman going to eat everything again?
For weeks, the Pope filled notebooks, not policy drafts, not slogans, names, sentences, tears, contradictions. He wrote down the traditional priest who said beauty had been treated as extremism. He wrote down the LGBT Catholic who said mercy had been treated as suspicion. He wrote down the bishop who feared chaos. He wrote down the mother who said her 2 sons had taken opposite sides of the liturgy war and now no longer spoke.
Then came the laughter. That was the moment I understood. Not immediately with my mind.
At first, his advisors expected a pastoral letter, something broad, something moving, something safe enough for everyone to quote selectively.
Something in me, something that had been cracking quietly for years, stopped breaking and began to harden. I reached for my phone after I closed myself in my room. It was an old model. Mason had called it prehistoric the previous month and laughed when I asked him to help me update an app. I scrolled through my contacts until I found a number I had not called since Henry's funeral. Arthur Sterling, my attorney, the same man who had drafted Henry's will, the same man who had handled our property records, our business paperwork, our investments. The man who knew every detail of what I owned. I pressed call. The phone rang 3 times, then 4. Evelyn? His voice was alert despite the late hour. What happened? Arthur, I said, keeping my voice low. I need to see you tomorrow morning, first thing. There was a pause. Then he asked, Are you all right? No, I said honestly, but I am awake. Another pause. What do you need me to bring? Everything, I said. Every document, my accounts, the properties, the power of attorney, Marcus's loan, the will, all of it. This time the silence lasted longer. When Arthur spoke again, his voice had changed. Are you sure? I looked toward the closed door. Downstairs, the movie was still playing. The house shook with manufactured explosions and other people's laughter. I have never been more sure of anything. I hung up. Then I sat in the darkness and breathed. For the first time in 5 years, since Henry died and I allowed Claire and Marcus to help me with everything, I felt something close to clarity. I did not know exactly what I was going to do yet, but I knew one thing. That humiliation would be the last. Because what Marcus did not know, what none of them knew, was that the useless old woman had built a life, a fortune, and a legacy they could barely imagine, and tomorrow, I would begin to protect it. If this story touches something in your heart, stay with me, because what came next was something even I did not see coming. That night, I did not sleep. I lay on my narrow bed, staring at the cracked ceiling of my tiny room, listening to the house settle around me, a house that no longer felt like mine. The television shut off sometime after midnight. I heard Marcus's heavy footsteps on the stairs, then Claire's softer ones, then the door to the master bedroom closing. My bedroom. The room where Henry had kissed me goodnight for 42 years. The room where he had died beside me in his sleep after a sudden heart attack, one hand still resting near mine under the blanket. I closed my eyes, but sleep would not come. At 5 in the morning, while the sky outside was still black, I got up. I opened the bottom drawer of my nightstand and pulled out an old metal box. It was rusted at the corners and smelled faintly of paper, dust, and time. I had owned it since the first year of my marriage. Inside were documents I had not reviewed properly since Henry's funeral: birth certificates, old tax records, copies of deeds, bank letters, investment statements, insurance papers, a few photographs, one of me at 25 standing beside Henry in front of our first apartment. I barely recognized that woman. She had clear eyes, a straight back, and the expression of someone who had not yet learned how slowly life can make you disappear. I needed to remember who I had been before I became the shadow living in the corner of her own home. My full name is Evelyn Rose Whitaker. I was born in 1955. I studied accounting at a time when women of my generation were expected to marry young, keep quiet, and be grateful if men allowed them opinions. I did not keep quiet then. I graduated with honors and worked at an auditing firm for 15 years before my first child was born. When I married Henry, he was a newly graduated civil engineer with more ambition than money. He could barely afford the rent on our two-bedroom apartment. I kept working. My salary paid the down payment on this house. My salary bought our first furniture. My salary helped purchase the first truck Henry used when he began taking private construction jobs. But no one remembered that. Not my children, not my relatives, not even some of our old friends. In the story everyone preferred, Henry had been the provider and I had been the mother, the woman in the kitchen, the woman who packed lunches and checked homework, the woman who knew everyone's favorite meal and no one's financial limits. What my children never truly understood was that when Henry started his construction company, I was his partner. Not officially. In those days, men smiled politely when women spoke about money. But I kept the books. I negotiated with suppliers. I reviewed contracts. I found legal tax strategies that saved us thousands each year. Every dollar Henry earned, I stretched, multiplied, invested, and protected. I bought a small commercial space downtown when everyone said the area was declining. Today, that property was worth 3 times what I paid for it. I later bought another one nearby, a narrow storefront that a young woman now rented for her boutique. I invested in companies when they were still small and uncertain. Some failed. Others grew so much that they gave me returns I still sometimes found difficult to believe. Henry knew. He always knew. At night, when the children were asleep, he would sit across from me at the kitchen table while I reviewed ledgers and say, "Evelyn, without you, I would still be building porches for neighbors." And I would laugh and say, "And without you, I would have no one brave enough to take my advice." We were a team, not perfect, no marriages, but we respected each other. We listened. We knew the value of what the other brought to the table. When Henry died 5 years ago, something in me collapsed. It was sudden, brutal. One moment he was alive, talking about pruning the lemon tree in the backyard. The next morning, he was gone. A heart attack, the doctor said. Quick. Merciful? That word angered me for months. Merciful for whom? Not for me. I lost my husband, my companion, my confidant, the only person who had truly seen the value of my work, even when the rest of the world reduced me to mother and wife. And in that moment of weakness, I made the greatest mistake of my life. I gave them access. Claire came to the funeral with Marcus and the children. She held me while crying and said, "Mom, don't worry about anything. We'll take care of you. We'll take care of everything." I was shattered. So I believed her. I signed a limited power of attorney that allowed her to help with bank procedures, utility payments, property paperwork, and routine transactions. "Just so you don't have to run all over town, Mom," she said. "You don't need that stress anymore." Marcus nodded solemnly beside her. "You should rest, Evelyn. You've done enough." I thought they meant love. I thought they meant protection. Then Marcus suggested they move in with me. "Just temporarily," he said. "So you won't be alone in this big house." I agreed. I thought it would be 3 months, maybe 6. 5 years passed. Little by little, I stopped making decisions. Marcus had an opinion about everything. Don't renew that certificate of deposit, Evelyn. Rates are terrible right now. Don't worry about the property taxes. I'll handle it. Why do you want to go to the bank? Claire can do that. Why do you need to go shopping? We'll bring what you need. Don't stress yourself with paperwork. That's what we're here for. And I let them, because grief had made me tired, because loneliness had made me frightened, because I told myself they were helping, because I told myself I should be grateful. But that morning, sitting on my bed with documents spread around me like evidence from a crime scene, I saw the truth with brutal clarity. The house was in my name. The original deed was in a safe deposit box only I could access. 2 commercial properties in the city were also in my name. One rented to a cafe, the other to a boutique. Together, they generated $3,800 a month. That money had been going into an account Claire managed for me. I had an investment account with $120,000, producing interest I had not seen in years. And then there was the matter that made the room spin around me. 2 years earlier, Marcus had asked me to guarantee a business loan. It's only paperwork, Evelyn, he had said. The bank just needs a guarantor for the auto repair shop. I won't touch your money, I swear. I signed. $78,000. The shop lasted 8 months. Then it failed. Marcus told me there had been problems with a partner, bad timing, equipment delays, a difficult economy. He said he would pay me back every cent. He said he only needed time. I never saw a cent. And the bank never came after me because Marcus had continued making minimum payments with my money, the rental income from my properties, the money Claire was supposedly managing for my benefit. I sat there gripping the papers until my hands hurt. For 5 years, I had been blind, trusting, grieving, believing my family was protecting me while they were quietly emptying me out. Marcus's new car, Claire's latest phone, the children's private lessons, the urgent kitchen renovation, the streaming services, the restaurant meals, the clothes, all of it, paid for with resources I had built over 40 years. Meanwhile, I wore blouses that had faded from washing. I bought the cheapest soap at the supermarket. I slept in the smallest room of my own house. I placed the documents into my worn cloth bag, the one Mason had called homeless-looking the previous week. Then I went downstairs. In the kitchen, Marcus sat at the table eating eggs and sausage while reading the news on his tablet. Claire was ironing her nurse's uniform. Her shoulders were slumped with exhaustion. The children were still asleep. "Good morning," I said. Marcus did not look up. "There's coffee on the stove." I poured myself a cup. It was cold. No one had made fresh coffee for me. No one had even left enough hot. "I'm going out for a while," I said. Claire looked up immediately. "Out? Where?" "I have some paperwork to take care of." "What paperwork? I can go with you." "That won't be necessary, sweetheart. I'm going to see Arthur Sterling." Marcus finally raised his head. His eyes narrowed. "The lawyer?" "Yes." "What for?" I smiled. A small, calm smile. Old people things. Boring paperwork. I picked up my bag and left before they could ask another question. Outside, the air was cool and gray. The sun had barely begun to rise. I walked 3 blocks to the main avenue and hailed a taxi. "Sterling and Associates, please." As the taxi moved through morning traffic, I opened my bag and looked once more at the statements I had printed in secret the night before. The numbers did not lie. In 5 years, I had given my family far more than money. I had given them control. I had given them silence. I had given them permission. And not once in all that time had any of them asked, "Evelyn, what do you need?" The taxi stopped in front of a glass office building. I paid the driver and went up to the 4th floor. The receptionist recognized me at once. "Mrs. Whitaker, Mr. Sterling is waiting for you." Arthur Sterling was 73 years old, with white hair, sharp eyes, and the weary patience of a man who had spent decades watching families destroy themselves over money. He stood when I entered. "Evelyn." He hugged me gently. Then he stepped back and looked at my face. "Tell me everything." So I did. Sitting across from his mahogany desk, with the loan agreement spread between us, I told him every humiliation, every careless remark, every hidden expense. Every time Marcus had spoken to me like a burden, every time Claire had looked away, every time I had chosen silence because I was afraid of being alone. When I finished, Arthur folded his hands on the desk. His voice was quiet. "What do you want to do?" I looked at the documents. Then I looked at him. "I want my life back, Asim," I said. "And I want them to learn that dignity is not negotiable, not even with family." Arthur nodded slowly. "Then we begin here." He laid out the documents carefully, like a surgeon preparing instruments before an operation. Each sheet represented a choice. Each signature would move me toward something that terrified and liberated me at the same time. "Before we make any move," he said, "you need to understand something. Once this begins, there is no easy way back. Your family will react, probably badly." "I know. Are you prepared for that?" I thought of the dinner table. Marcus laughing, Mason smirking, Lily giggling, Claire lowering her eyes. I am prepared. We spent 3 hours reviewing every detail. Arthur explained options I did not know I still had. Rights I had forgotten belonged to me. First, the loan guarantee. Because Marcus had not informed me truthfully about the condition of his business, and because he had represented the loan as temporary and safe when the business was already in serious trouble, Arthur believed there were grounds to withdraw my guarantee. The bank would have to restructure the debt with Marcus as the sole responsible party. "They will call him," Arthur warned. "Possibly tomorrow. When they realize he no longer has your backing, they will demand additional guarantees or immediate payment terms." "Good," I said. Second, the power of attorney. It was limited. Claire could assist with certain financial transactions, but she could not sell my properties, take out loans in my name, or use my assets for personal purchases. And most importantly, I could revoke it at any time. "If you revoke it," Arthur said, "Claire will no longer be able to access your accounts, your rental income, or your investments." My hand trembled above the page. Revoking my own daughter's authority, putting in writing that I did not trust her. But then I asked myself the question I had avoided for 5 years. Was it really trust, or was it fear? "What about the house?" I asked. "They live there with me." Arthur leaned back in his chair. "The house is yours. Legally, they are guests. You can ask them to leave." Guests. My daughter, my son-in-law, and my grandchildren were guests in my own home. The word struck me harder than I expected. "I need time to think about that," I said. "I don't want to put Claire out on the street. She is still my daughter." "Of course," Arthur replied. "But, Evelyn, you also do not deserve to live like a prisoner in your own home." I signed the first documents. Revocation of power of attorney. Withdrawal of guarantee. Arthur would file them that afternoon with the necessary offices and notify the bank. Before I stood to leave, I said, "There is one more thing." Arthur looked up. "Yes? I need to change my will." His expression sharpened. "What do you have in mind?" "I want to create a trust for my grandchildren, something Claire and Marcus cannot touch. Education only. Tuition, books, courses, training, not $1 for their parents." Arthur nodded. "Smart. How much?" I did the calculation in my head. $150,000 from my investments. Arthur gave a low whistle. "That is going to hurt when they find out." "Let it hurt," I said. My grandchildren deserved a future. Their parents deserved a lesson. I left Arthur's office after 2 in the afternoon. I had not eaten anything all day, but I was not hungry. I had something stronger than hunger in my stomach. A plan. I walked through the city without knowing where I was going. I needed to think, to process, to decide how far I was willing to go. Eventually, I stopped in front of a small church, St. Michael's. I had not been there in years. I stepped inside. The smell of candle wax and old wood wrapped around me like a memory from childhood. I sat in the last pew and looked toward the altar. "Henry," I whispered, "I wish you were here." But Henry was not there, and I had spent 5 years waiting for someone else to rescue me. I closed my eyes. Memories came in fragments. Not just the humiliation from the night before. There had been signs long before that. My 68th birthday. No one remembered. Marcus had invited friends over that day to watch football and grill in the backyard. No one asked whether I wanted a cake. No one asked whether I wanted to invite anyone. Claire had said, "Oh, Mom, happy birthday," while pouring coffee, then gone right back to what she was doing. Christmas. I had bought thoughtful gifts for everyone with my own money. Tablets, headphones, clothes, toys, perfume. They gave me an oversized mustard-colored sweater with a stitched reindeer on the front. "So you'll be comfortable, Evelyn," Marcus had said. I wore it once, so I would not seem ungrateful. Then I folded it and placed it at the back of a drawer. The evenings when I would sit in the living room watching an old movie and Marcus would come in, take the remote, and change the channel without asking. "You've watched enough, Evelyn. My show is on." The meals where I served everyone first, and by the time I sat down, the food was cold. No one ever waited for me. No one said, "Sit, Mom, eat while it's hot." The comments. God, the comments. "You're too old for that. You don't understand how things work now. Don't go out alone. What if you get tired? Let me handle it. You'll get confused." "Oh, Evelyn, you and your old-fashioned ideas." Tiny stabs disguised as concern. And I accepted every one of them because I was afraid. Afraid of being difficult. Afraid of being left alone. Afraid of becoming the bitter old mother no one wanted to visit. But the night before, when the entire table laughed at me, something changed. I understood that I was already alone, and that living surrounded by people who despised you was worse than living alone with dignity. I opened my eyes. An elderly woman near the front of the church was lighting a candle. She looked about my age, perhaps older, but she moved with purpose, with calm, with the quiet confidence of someone who still knew exactly who she was. I wanted to be like her. I stood, placed $20 in the donation box, and left the church with a clear heart. When I returned home, it was nearly 5. The house was quiet. Claire was still at work. Marcus was likely at some bar or pretending to manage whatever remained of his failed business. The children were at school. I went upstairs and pulled an old suitcase from the closet. The same suitcase Henry and I had used on our honeymoon almost 50 years earlier. I began packing. Not much. A few clothes, medication, important papers, a framed photograph of Henry. I was not leaving yet, but I needed to be ready for the moment when leaving became necessary. I placed copies of everything Arthur and I had signed into a folder. The deeds, account statements, loan documents, property records, all of it. At 7, I heard the front door open. Voices. Marcus had returned. I went downstairs and prepared dinner as usual. I acted normal. I made soup and toast. I set the table. I called everyone. We ate in an uncomfortable silence. Marcus watched me from the corner of his eye as though he sensed something had changed but could not identify what. "How did it go with the lawyer?" Claire asked. "Fine," I said. "I updated some papers." "What papers?" I smiled. "Boring things, sweetheart. Nothing important." A lie. It was the most important thing I had done in years. That night, lying in bed, I looked at my phone. Arthur had sent a message. "Documents filed. Bank receives official notification tomorrow morning. Prepare yourself." I replied, "I am ready." Then I turned off the light. For the first time in 5 years, I slept without that knot in my stomach. Because I knew that tomorrow, when the bank called Marcus, when he discovered that the useless old woman had removed his safety net, everything would change, and I would be ready. The next morning, I woke at 5:30. No alarm. My body knew what day it was. I showered, dressed in beige linen pants and a simple white blouse, and brushed my hair neatly. Nothing special. I wanted to look exactly as I always did. The invisible grandmother, the harmless old woman who made breakfast and caused no problems. I went downstairs. I brewed coffee, took eggs from the refrigerator, warmed beans, heated tortillas, and set the pan on the stove. The movements were automatic after decades of performing the same routine. But today, every action carried a different weight. It felt as though I were preparing my final meal as the submissive Evelyn, the Evelyn who lowered her head, the Evelyn who apologized for existing. At 7, Marcus came down first. He wore a shirt from his old auto repair business. Though the shop had been closed for months, he still wore the shirt as if the logo could convince the world he was the owner of something. He sat at the head of the table without greeting me. He took his coffee and began scrolling through his phone. "Good morning," I said. He made a sound that might have been a greeting if generosity were applied. I served his plate. Scrambled eggs, beans, 3 warm tortillas. I placed it in front of him. He did not look up. Claire came down 15 minutes later. Her hair was wet, her nurse's uniform wrinkled, her face pale with fatigue. "Oh, Mom, you didn't have to bother," she said while already reaching for the coffee. "It's no bother." Another lie. Everything had become a bother lately. But it was not yet time to say that. Mason and Lily came down dragging their feet. Mason wore headphones. Lily yawned into her sleeve. They sat without greeting me, ate while looking at their phones, and treated the food as though it had appeared by magic. The table was full of people, and I felt completely alone. Marcus finished his breakfast first. Then he finally spoke. "Evelyn, I need you to sign some papers today." I looked up. "What papers?" "Bank papers. They're renewing the loan contract. They need your updated signature as guarantor." Something cold moved through my chest. So, he either already knew something was wrong, or he was trying to secure my signature before the bank called. "What loan?" I asked, pretending confusion. "The shop loan," he said impatiently. "The one you signed 2 years ago." "Oh, that one." I took a sip of coffee. "How is the shop doing?" He stiffened. "Fine." "Really? Because you haven't told me anything about it in months." Claire stepped in quickly. "Mom, the shop had a rough patch, but Marcus is working on getting things back on track. That's why the bank needs the renewal." "I understand," I said. Then I looked at Marcus. "How much do you still owe?" His jaw tightened. "That is between the bank and me. I just need your signature. If I am signing, then I need to know what I'm guaranteeing." $78,000. Same as before. Lie. Arthur had shown me the real balance. $120,000 with accumulated interest. Marcus had refinanced twice without telling me, and each time the debt had grown. "I see," I said calmly. "Let me think about it." "Think about it?" Marcus dropped his fork hard against the plate. "There's nothing to think about. You already signed once. This is just a renewal." "Yes, but before, no one explained it properly. Now I want to understand before signing anything." His face turned red. "I cannot believe this. After everything we've done for you, we give you a home, food, care, and now you come out with this?" The air changed. The children finally looked up from their phones. Claire turned pale. "Marcus," she began. "No, Claire, let me speak." He turned toward me. "Look, Evelyn, I'm going to be honest because I'm tired of tiptoeing around things. This house needs a lot. The roof leaks, the bathroom pipes are old, the yard is a disaster. We have plans to remodel, to make this place decent again." "With my money," I said softly, "in my house." His eyes narrowed. "And what do I think about those plans?" Marcus gave a short, bitter laugh. "You? With all due respect, Evelyn, you're not up to handling these things anymore. That's why we're here, to take care of what you can't." "I see." I placed my cup carefully on the table, so I am not part of the decisions. I only sign the papers. "Mom," Claire said, her voice nervous. "Of course you matter. It's just that Marcus understands construction, business, repairs. We only want to help." "Help." That word again. I stood. "I'm going out for a while." Marcus frowned. "Going out? Where?" "To walk, to clear my head." "And the papers?" "I'll look at them when I return." I picked up my bag and left before he could continue. I walked 4 blocks to a small cafe and sat by the window. I ordered coffee with milk. Then I took out my phone. There was a message from Arthur. "The bank received the official notification. They will call Marcus between today and tomorrow to inform him that you are no longer listed as guarantor. Prepare for the storm." I replied, "It has already started. He asked me to sign a renewal this morning. He doesn't know yet." Arthur answered quickly. "Typical. He wanted to secure your signature before the bank reached him." "Do not sign anything, Evelyn. Nothing." "I won't." I placed the phone on the table and looked out the window. People moved past the cafe in a hurry. Office workers, mothers with strollers, Students with backpacks, elderly men walking slowly with canes, everyone carrying private burdens no one else could see. I wondered how many women like me were out there. How many mothers and grandmothers were living in homes they owned as if they were unwanted guests. How many were signing papers they did not understand because family knows best. How many were mistaking control for care. I stayed in the cafe for 2 hours, not because I was afraid to go home, but because I needed to strengthen my resolve. I needed to remind myself that what I was doing was not cruelty. It was justice. It was dignity. It was recovering what had been slowly taken from me through sweet words and hidden contempt. When I returned home close to noon, Marcus was pacing the living room with the phone pressed to his ear. His voice was tense. Yes, I understand, but there must be a mistake. No, I have my mother-in-law's guarantee. What do you mean it was revoked? When? He saw me. His eyes narrowed. Hold on, he said into the phone. Then he covered the receiver and stared at me. Did you go to the bank? No, I said. I went to my lawyer and to the notary. I updated my documents. I told you. What documents? My documents, Marcus. My properties, my accounts, my guarantees. His face went white, then red, then a dark purple that made me wonder whether he might collapse right there. You removed the guarantee, he said. His voice was low and rough. Yes. Why? He shouted. The phone nearly fell from his hand. Claire rushed in from the kitchen. What's happening? Why are you yelling? Marcus pointed at me with a shaking finger. Your mother just destroyed my life. That's what happened. Claire turned to me, confused. Mom, what did you do? I took a deep breath. This was the moment, the point of no return. I withdrew my guarantee from Marcus's business loan. And I revoked the power of attorney I gave you 5 years ago. From today forward, no one manages my money except me. The silence that followed was enormous. In that silence, I watched the mask of our perfect family crack and fall. Marcus hung up the phone. His hands were trembling. Claire stood frozen in the middle of the room, looking at me as if I had grown into someone she did not recognize. You can't do this, Marcus said. His voice was strangely calm now. Too calm. You signed a contract. You made a commitment. A commitment based on lies, I said. You told me the shop was doing well. You told me you only needed a temporary guarantor. You told me you would pay me back in 6 months. I was going to pay you. It has been 2 years, Marcus. And not only have you not paid me back, the debt has grown from $78,000 to $120,000. Did you think I would never find out? Claire gasped. 120,000? Marcus turned sharply toward her. It's more complicated than that, Claire. Interest, refinancing, operating expenses. You lied, I interrupted. To both of them. You used my trust to keep getting deeper into debt while living in my house rent-free, eating my food, spending money for my properties. Your house? Marcus finally exploded. We have maintained this house. I pay the gas, the electricity, the water. With the rental income from my commercial properties, I said, $3,800 a month deposited into an account Claire supposedly managed for me. Do you know how much of that money I have personally seen in 2 years? Nothing. Not $1. Claire lowered herself onto the sofa. Mom, we use that money for household expenses. For everyone. I thought it was what you wanted. You never asked what I wanted? Because you never said anything, Marcus shouted. You just sat there, quiet, cooking, cleaning. How were we supposed to know you had a problem if you never spoke? The other night at dinner, I spoke. I said, you called me a useless old woman, and the whole table laughed. That was when I understood that speaking would not help. It was a joke, a damn joke. I did not laugh. A thick silence filled the room. Mason and Lily had appeared on the stairs. They had heard everything. Lily's eyes were wet. Mason looked frightened. Mom, Claire asked, her voice breaking. What are you going to do? Are you going to throw us out? The question hung in the air like a knife suspended above all of us. No, I said finally. Not today, but things are going to change. Radically. What does that mean? Marcus asked suspiciously. It means we finish this conversation tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock in Arthur Sterling's office, with my lawyer present. Both of you will be there. I am not going to any lawyer's office, Marcus said. I don't have to answer to you. Then, on Monday, I begin legal eviction proceedings and file a claim for the full $120,000 you owe plus interest. His face twisted with rage. You're threatening me. No, I am setting boundaries. Something I should have done 5 years ago. I picked up my bag and went upstairs. My legs were trembling, but I did not stop until I reached my room and closed the door. Then I sat on the bed and breathed. 3 times. 4. 5. I had done it. I had said the words aloud. There was no going back. My phone vibrated. Arthur, how are things? I replied. Everything exploded. I told them. Meeting tomorrow at 10. Good. I'll have all documents ready. Statements, contracts, records, proof. They will not be able to deny anything. Thank you, Arthur. Are you all right? I thought about that. Was I all right? I had just detonated my relationship with my daughter and son-in-law. I had probably frightened my grandchildren. My house felt like a battlefield. But for the first time in years, I felt alive. I am scared, I wrote, but I am all right. Arthur replied, that is normal. You are doing exactly what you need to do. The rest of the day passed in icy silence. No one came down for lunch. I made lentil soup only for myself and ate at the kitchen table while looking out at the backyard where Henry's old lemon tree stood barren. At 8 that night, I heard Marcus and Claire arguing in their bedroom. Muffled shouting, crying, more shouting. At 9, someone knocked on my door. Yes? Claire entered alone. Her eyes were swollen and red. She sat on the edge of my bed without asking permission. For a moment, she looked like the girl she had once been. The child who used to climb into my lap after nightmares. The teenager who cried when a boy broke her heart. Then she spoke. Why didn't you tell me you felt this way? I looked at her for a long time. I did. No, Mom, you didn't. I told you with silence, with looks, with leaving the table, with stopping mid-sentence because no one was listening. You did not want to see it. That's not fair. You can't blame me for everything. I don't blame you for everything. I blame you for choosing a man who humiliated me over your own mother. I blame you for managing my money as if it belonged to you. I blame you for never once in 5 years asking what I needed. I did ask. When, Claire? When did you ask whether I was happy? Whether I was comfortable living in the smallest room of my own house? Whether it hurt when Marcus mocked me and you looked away? She began to cry. I didn't know it was that bad. I thought you understood that was just Marcus's way, that he didn't mean it. The problem is not only Marcus. The problem is that you never defended me. Not once. Claire lowered her head. I was afraid. Of what? That he would leave. That I would be alone with 2 children. That I would not be able to pay the bills. There it was. The truth. Claire had not protected me because she needed him more than she thought she needed me. Because her fear of being alone was stronger than her sense of justice. Claire, I said softly, I was afraid too. Afraid of being alone after your father died. That is why I allowed all of this. But do you know what I learned? She looked up. What? Being alone with dignity is better than being surrounded by humiliation. What will happen tomorrow? You will listen to the conditions. Then you and Marcus will decide whether you can live by them or whether you prefer to find another place. We don't have money for another place. Then you will have to learn to respect me and mine. She stood slowly. At the door, she turned. I'm sorry, she whispered. I'm sorry I wasn't the daughter you needed. You still can be, I said, but you have to choose it every day. She left. I stayed awake long after midnight, reviewing the plan in my head. 6 months to find another place if they chose to leave. $500 a month in rent while they remained. Partial forgiveness of the debt. I would pursue $48,000 instead of the original $78,000, absorbing the rest as the cost of closing this chapter. Payments of $1,000 a month for 4 years. Absolute respect. Family therapy. No touching my money again without explicit written authorization. If they refused, eviction in 30 days and a lawsuit for the full debt with interest. Hard terms, but fair, because I had learned something fundamental. Forgiveness without consequences is not forgiveness. It is permission to be hurt again. And I was no longer willing to grant that permission. The morning arrived gray and heavy, as if even the sky knew something would break. I woke at 6 and dressed carefully. A simple wine-colored dress, comfortable closed shoes, the pearl necklace Henry had given me on our 20th anniversary. I wanted to look exactly like what I was, a 70-year-old woman who knew her worth. Downstairs, I made coffee only for myself. No one else had come down yet. At 8, Marcus appeared. He did not look at me. He poured coffee, grabbed a piece of bread, and sat in front of the television. At 8:20, Claire came downstairs. Her face was swollen from crying. The children did not come down. I assumed they had been told to stay in their rooms. "We leave at 9:30, I said. "The appointment is at 10. Arthur's office is 20 minutes away." No one responded. At 9 exactly, Marcus finally spoke. "I'm not going." "Then I begin the legal process Monday." "This is ridiculous. Talking to a lawyer like we're criminals." "You are not criminals," I said. "But you are debtors, and I am the creditor. That is how this works." He stood abruptly. "You know what, Evelyn? For 5 years, we have put up with you. Your silent complaints, your long faces, your way of acting like a victim. You could have said something at any time. I said something when I left the table after you humiliated me. No one noticed. Or worse, no one cared. It was a joke. Jokes are made among equals, Marcus. You treat me like a servant, and everyone allows it." Claire spoke with a trembling voice. "Mom, please, let's speak civilly. I'm going to the appointment." Marcus turned to her. "Fine, I'll go for you. But I'm not signing anything that doesn't benefit me." "No one is forcing you to sign anything," I said. "Only to listen." We left the house at 9:30. We took Marcus's car, the new Nissan he had purchased with my money without telling me. The ride was silent except for the low murmur of the radio. Claire sat in the back, staring out the window. I sat in the front with my bag on my lap, feeling the weight of the documents inside. We arrived 5 minutes before 10. We rode the elevator without speaking. Marcus clenched and unclenched his fists. Claire bit her nails. The receptionist led us immediately into the conference room. Arthur was waiting, not in his office. In the conference room, formal, official. "Good morning," he said professionally. "Please sit." We sat around a long mahogany table. Arthur sat across from Marcus and Claire with folders arranged neatly before him. I sat beside Arthur. Claire and Marcus sat opposite us, like defendants in a trial. In a way, they were. Arthur opened the first folder. "Let us begin by establishing the facts. Mrs. Evelyn Rose Whitaker, widow of Henry Whitaker, is the legal owner of a residence, 2 commercial properties, an investment account, and other assets. Correct?" "Correct," I said. In July of 2023, Mrs. Whitaker signed as guarantor for a business loan of $78,000 in the name of Mr. Marcus Hale, present here. Correct?" "Yes." The loan was intended to open an auto repair shop, which, according to what Mrs. Whitaker was told, would generate enough profit to repay the loan within 18 months. Is that correct? "Yes." Arthur slid a document toward Marcus. "Mr. Hale, this is the current statement for that loan. Please confirm the balance." Marcus barely glanced down. His jaw was tight. $120,000. "And how much principal has been paid?" Silence. "Mr. Hale, I asked you a question." "12,000, he muttered. Claire turned toward him in disbelief. "Only 12,000 in 2 years?" "The business didn't perform the way I expected." "The business closed a year ago," Arthur said. "And you have been paying minimum interest using the rental income from Mrs. Whitaker's commercial properties without her explicit knowledge." "She knew." Claire handled the accounts. Claire went pale. "I thought Mom agreed. You told me you had talked to her." "I did talk to her," Marcus snapped. "I told her we needed money to maintain the house." "You lied," I said firmly. "You never told me the rent money was paying your debt. You said it was for utilities, groceries, and the children." "It was all for the family." "No, Marcus. It was to save your failed business, to maintain your lifestyle, to buy that car. I pointed toward the window where the Nissan sat in the parking lot. Arthur produced another document. A 2023 Nissan. Purchase price $34,000, paid in cash through a withdrawal from Mrs. Whitaker's rental account in March of last year. She authorized it, Marcus said quickly. We had power of attorney. The power of attorney belonged to Claire, not to you, Arthur replied. And it allowed limited administration, not personal purchases. Legally, that purchase is questionable. Marcus stood so suddenly his chair scraped against the floor. This is a circus. You brought me here to humiliate me. I brought you here to show you the truth, I said, standing too. For 5 years, you have lived from my money while treating me like garbage. And my daughter let you do it because she was more afraid of losing you than losing me. Mom, Claire cried, that isn't fair. Do you know what isn't fair, Claire? That on my 68th birthday, no one remembered because Marcus organized a barbecue with his friends. That at Christmas, you gave me an ugly sweater, bought on clearance, while I bought expensive gifts for everyone. That every time Marcus insulted me, you lowered your eyes and stayed silent. I didn't know what to do. You could have defended me once. That was all I needed. Arthur cleared his throat. Let us sit down. There is more to review. We sat. Marcus's face was red with anger. Claire sobbed quietly. Arthur continued in an even, relentless tone. In addition to the loan and the car, we have found other questionable expenses. A vacation last year costing $4,500. Music lessons for the children at $800 a month. Multiple streaming services, restaurant charges, branded clothing, all charged to the account supposedly used to maintain Mrs. Whitaker's household. Those things were for the family too, Marcus insisted. While Mrs. Whitaker bought clothing at discount shops and used the cheapest soap because she believed she had no money, Arthur added. The silence after that was crushing. Finally, Marcus seemed to collapse inward. He covered his face with both hands. Fine, he said. Yes, I went too far. I know, but I didn't know how to say it. The business failed and I didn't want to look like a loser in front of my family. So you used me as your personal bank, I said. I was going to pay you. With what money, Marcus? You have no job. The shop is closed. Where was the money going to come from? He did not answer. Because there was no answer. Claire spoke, her voice broken. Mom, what do you want us to do? Arthur opened the final folder. Mrs. Whitaker has prepared 2 options. Claire went still. Marcus stared at the table. The first option, Arthur said, is that you have 6 months to find another place to live. During those 6 months, you will pay $500 per month in rent. The debt will be restructured. Mrs. Whitaker will forgive $30,000 from the original amount. The remaining $48,000 must be paid in monthly installments of $1,000 over 4 years. If a single payment is missed without written agreement, the full debt becomes immediately due with legal interest. Claire swallowed. And the second option? Eviction within 30 days and a lawsuit for the full $120,000, including accumulated interest. That may include seizure of the car and any other assets. Marcus looked at me. You are destroying me. No, I said. I am setting limits, something I should have done a long time ago. If we accept the first option? Marcus asked. What else? Respect, I said. Absolute respect. No insults, no mockery, no little comments disguised as jokes. Monthly family therapy, all 4 of us, including the children when appropriate. And neither you nor Claire will ever touch my money again without my written authorization in front of a notary. That's impossible, Marcus began. Then take the second option. His mouth closed. I have made my decision, I said. Now you make yours. Claire looked at Marcus. Marcus looked at Claire. In that exchange, I saw everything. Fear, shame, anger, helplessness. We need time, Claire said. You have until Monday at 5 in the afternoon, Arthur replied. After that, Mrs. Whitaker will proceed with whichever option she chooses. We stood. Marcus left first without saying goodbye. Claire stopped at the door. Mom, she whispered, I still love you, despite everything. I love you too, sweetheart. That is why I'm doing this, because love without boundaries is not love. It is self-destruction. She left. Arthur and I remained alone in the conference room. You did very well, he said. It does not feel good. It never feels good to set boundaries, he replied. But it is necessary. He was right. I left the building and took a taxi home. I did not want to ride back with them. I needed room to breathe. During the ride, I looked out the window. The city kept moving, indifferent to my small family war, and I realized something. The world had not ended because I said no. The world was still turning. I was still breathing. And for the first time in years, I was breathing without that crushing weight in my chest. I arrived home before them. The house was empty. The children were probably at school. I went upstairs and sat on my bed to wait. I knew the explosion was coming. It was only a matter of time. Half an hour later, I heard the car pull into the driveway. The front door opened hard. Heavy footsteps came up the stairs, then pounding on my door. Open. Marcus. I opened the door. He looked unhinged. His eyes were bloodshot. His hair looked as though he had been pulling at it the entire way home. We need to talk. We already talked at Arthur's office. Now we talk for real. No lawyers, no papers, just you and me. Claire appeared behind him. Marcus, please, let me talk to her. I stepped aside and let them in. The three of us stood in my tiny room. Marcus paced like a trapped animal. Claire sat in the only chair. I stood near the window. Do you know what bothers me most? Marcus began. It's not the money. It's not the papers. It's that for 5 years you acted like everything was fine. Like you didn't care. And now you come out with all this. I acted that way because I was afraid. Afraid of what? That if I said anything, you would leave me alone. That I would become the bitter mother-in-law no one wanted. That I would lose my family. Well, you are losing it now. Is that what you wanted? I want respect. If I have to be alone to have respect, then yes. Marcus laughed bitterly. Respect. Of course. But you never respected my effort, my work, my attempt to build something. Your effort? I asked. You opened a shop with my money, let it fail, and kept spending my money as if nothing had happened. Where is the effort in that? The business failed. It happens. I'm not the first person to go broke. You are right. But you are the first person I know who kept living like a rich man with no money in his mother-in-law's house, using his mother-in-law's income while insulting that same mother-in-law. Enough with the insult. It was a joke. It was not a joke, I shouted. It was the first time in 5 years that I shouted in that house. It was the summary of 5 years of contempt, 5 years of little comments, 5 years of making me feel like I was in the way, 5 years of treating me like your servant instead of the owner of the house where you live for free. Claire sobbed. Mom, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I turned to her. Do you know when I knew I had lost my daughter? She looked at me through tears. It was not when you got married. It was not when you moved in. It was my 68th birthday. I came into the kitchen that morning and you were making coffee. I said, I'm 68 today. And you said, oh yes, Mom, happy birthday, without even turning around. No hug, no cake, nothing. That day, I understood I was no longer a priority. I was furniture. Claire pressed a hand to her mouth. I don't remember it like that. Because to you, it was not important. To me, it was the day I began disappearing. Marcus spoke again, calmer but still hard. What did you expect? For us to treat you like a queen? We all live here. We're family. Families support one another, I said. Families respect one another. Support is mutual. It cannot be one person giving and everyone else taking. We gave you company after your husband died. You did not give me company. You took my house, my privacy, and my dignity. That's an exaggeration. I opened the drawer of my nightstand and took out an old notebook. I had been filling it for 6 months without truly understanding why. Dates, comments, small wounds. I opened it to a random page and read aloud. March 15th. Marcus told me not to cook anymore because my food had become bland. Claire laughed and said, "It's true, Mom. You're starting to forget the salt." I turned another page. May 3rd. Lily needed help with math homework. I studied accounting. I offered to help her. Marcus said, "Better not, Evelyn. You probably don't remember that stuff anymore." Lily didn't even look at me. Another page. July 22nd. Mason turned 12. I made a 3-milk cake, his favorite when he was little. After dinner, he said, "Grandma, this tastes weird." Marcus tasted it and said, "Next time, we'll order from the bakery." I threw half the cake away that night. Claire was crying silently. Marcus had gone pale. "I have 32 more pages," I said, closing the notebook. 32 pages of small humiliations that became one enormous heartbreak. The dinner joke was only the final drop. "I didn't know you felt that way," Claire whispered, "because you never asked. You were so busy keeping Marcus happy that you forgot I needed someone to care for me too." Marcus sat on the edge of my bed, defeated. "So what now? Do you hate us? Do you want us gone forever?" "I do not hate you," I said. "But I cannot continue like this. You need to understand something. The money I spent on you was not extra money. It was the result of 40 years of work, sacrifice, discipline, and intelligent decisions. You wasted it as if it were water while making me feel like I was the burden." "We will pay you back," Marcus said. "Every dollar, I swear." "With what money?" "I'll get a job, a real job. No more business ideas. I'll work for someone else if I have to." "He's right," Claire said quickly. "I can take extra shifts at the hospital. We can pay." I looked at both of them. There was sincerity in their eyes, but there was also desperation, and I could not yet tell the difference. "You have until Monday," I said. "Choose which option you will take. But know this. If you choose to stay, the rules change completely. This is still my house. You are my guests, and I am going to start living like the owner I am, not like the maid I became." "What does that mean?" Claire asked. "It means I am taking the master bedroom back, the room that was mine and your father's. You may stay in the room you currently use until the 6 months are over, but I will no longer sleep in the sewing room." "Mom." "No, there are no objections. You take it or you leave." Claire lowered her eyes. "Also," I continued, "I am hiring someone to clean the house twice a week. I will not keep doing it alone, and I will pay for it from my rental income, which will return to my personal account, not the family account." "That is fair," Claire admitted. "And one more thing. The children need to know the truth. Not every detail, but enough to understand that what happened here is not normal. Families should not function this way." "They'll hate us," Marcus said. "They will learn. That is different." A long silence followed. Outside, the school bus stopped. Children's voices drifted in. The front door opened. Mason and Lily were home. "Talk to each other," I said. "Think, decide. But Monday at 5, I want an answer. And whatever answer you give, I will respect it, because I know how to respect other people's decisions, even when they hurt me." They left my room silently. I heard them go downstairs. Muffled voices. Claire crying again. I sat on my bed and looked at the notebook in my hands. 32 pages of accumulated pain. I wondered how many women in the world had notebooks like mine. How many mothers, grandmothers, aunts, women writing down wounds in secret because they had not yet found the courage to say them aloud. I opened the window. Cool air entered the room. Then I took the notebook, that notebook full of sadness, and tore it apart page by page. Slowly, like a ritual. I did not need it anymore. I had said what I needed to say. And whatever happened Monday, I had already won something. I had recovered my voice. The weekend was strange, like living with ghosts inside a house, haunted by newly revealed secrets. On Saturday morning, Mason and Lily avoided me. They came into the kitchen, grabbed cereal, and disappeared to their rooms. I assumed Claire and Marcus had told them something, but not everything. The children looked at me. as though I were a stranger. Or worse, as if I were the villain in a story they did not understand. Claire spent most of Saturday locked in her bedroom. I could hear her crying through the walls. Marcus left early and did not return until night. When he walked in, he smelled of beer and cigarettes. I spent the day reorganizing my documents, separating what was mine from what had been treated as ours. It was more than I remembered, and less than it should have been. On Sunday afternoon, Claire knocked on my door. "Mom, can we talk alone?" "Of course." She entered and closed the door behind her. Then she sat on my bed with her legs crossed, just like she had when she was little and came to tell me about problems at school. But she was not little anymore. She was a 43-year-old woman with worry lines on her forehead and gray roots hidden beneath cheap dye. "I don't know where to start," she said. "Start where it hurts most." She inhaled deeply. "I think you are right about everything, and that is what hurts most. Because for 5 years, without realizing it, I stopped seeing you as my mother. I started seeing you as a resource, someone who was there to make our lives easier." "When did it begin?" "I don't know. Slowly. When Dad died, I was devastated too. Marcus was my support. He held me when I felt like I was falling apart. Somehow, I began prioritizing his happiness above everything else because I was afraid that if he wasn't happy, he would leave. And I couldn't survive another loss. And I did not count as a loss? You were there," she whispered. "Always there. I suppose I assumed you would always be there, that you had nowhere to go, that you would not leave." "Because I had no options, right? The old widow without her husband, depending on her children." "I never thought of it that way." "But that is how you treated me." Claire covered her face with both hands. "When did I become this person? My mother taught me to be strong, to defend myself, to never let anyone step on me, and I stepped on you." "It was not only your fault," I said. "I gave you permission. Every time I stayed silent, every time I accepted a comment, every time I said it's fine when it was not fine." "Why did you do that?" "For the same reason you did. Fear. Your father was my companion for 42 years. When he died, I was empty. You filled that emptiness. Even if it was with crumbs, I thought crumbs were better than nothing. And now? Now I know crumbs can poison you. It is better to be hungry with dignity than full of humiliation." Claire wiped her tears. "I talked to Marcus last night after the children fell asleep. I told him everything, how I felt, how I had failed as a daughter, how I had allowed it." "What did he say?" "At first, he was angry. He said I was being dramatic, that you were manipulating me, but later he broke. He admitted he had been a jerk, that he took advantage, that because we had your power of attorney, he thought we could do whatever we wanted with your things." "And the children?" "We talked to them this morning before you woke up. We explained that we had been living in your house without paying you, that we had spent your money without permission, that we had been unfair to you." "How did they react?" "Mason asked if we were going to be homeless. Lily asked if you hated us." My throat tightened. "We told them the truth," Claire continued, "that it depends on us, on whether we can learn to respect you." I was silent. Claire continued. "Mason remembered something. He said, it's like when I made fun of Carlos at school and my teacher said bullies never win. And Lily said, so Dad was Grandma's bully." The words pierced me. They were children, and they saw what the adults had refused to see. "They are good children," I said. "They are your grandchildren. They have your intelligence, your way of seeing things clearly." "Claire," I said after a moment, "I need to ask you something. And I need you to answer with brutal honesty. Anything. If Marcus told you it was him or me, if he forced you to choose between your husband and your mother, who would you choose?" The silence that followed felt endless. Claire looked at the floor, then the window, then her hands. Finally, she looked at me. "Before this week, I would have said him without hesitation. Because he was my present, because he slept beside me every night, because I thought I depended on him financially. even though the truth was that he depended on you. And now? Now I don't know. She swallowed. And I think that doubt is an answer by itself. Because if I loved Marcus the way I should, there would be no doubt. But there is. And that terrifies me. Why? Because it means these 5 years may have been a lie, that I stayed with him out of fear, not love, that I sacrificed my relationship with you to maintain a marriage that maybe was never as solid as I thought. Does he treat you well when you are alone? When no one sees? Does he respect you? She took too long to answer. That pause told me everything. He has a strong personality, she said finally. Sometimes he says hurtful things, but later he apologizes. He says he's stressed about money, work, everything. Has he ever hit you? No, never. But his words hurt. Sometimes more than a slap, she whispered, like the words he said to me at dinner. Yes. I moved closer and took her hands. They were cold and trembling. Claire, listen to me. I am not forcing you to choose between him and me. I am forcing you to choose yourself, to decide what kind of life you want, what kind of marriage, what kind of woman you want to be. I'm scared. I know. I was scared too. But do you know what I discovered? The fear of being alone is worse when you are already surrounded by people who make you feel alone. True loneliness is not being physically alone. It is being surrounded by people who do not see you, like you were with us. Exactly. Do you forgive me, Mom? The question floated between us. Did I? Could I forgive 5 years of emotional neglect? 5 years of silence? 5 years of watching her choose a man's comfort over her mother's dignity? I forgive you, I said finally. But forgiveness does not mean things return to what they were. It means I am willing to build something new, something better, if you are willing to. I am, I swear. Then prove it tomorrow at 5. She hugged me, and for the first time in 5 years, that hug felt real. Not automatic, not guilty. Real. When she left, I remained on the bed staring at the wall. I thought of Henry, of how he would have handled all this, probably with more hardness than I had. Henry did not tolerate disrespect. He always said family was the most important thing. But respect was the glue that kept family from falling apart. I'm doing the right thing, love, I whispered into the empty room. There was no answer, but in my heart, I felt one. After 5 years of losing myself, I was finally finding the way back. That night, I ate alone in the kitchen, a simple sandwich and a glass of water. I did not cook for anyone else. When Mason came downstairs looking for food, I looked at him and said, "There is ham and bread in the refrigerator. Can you make yourself something?" "You're not cooking, Grandma?" "Not tonight." "Are you angry with us?" I walked over and touched his hair. "I am not angry, sweetheart. I am tired. And I am working on not being tired anymore. Do you understand?" "I think so." "Good. Dad said we were unfair to you. Your father is right." "I'm sorry, Grandma. I am sorry too. I am sorry you had to see all this." "Are we going to leave your house?" "I don't know yet. Your parents will decide tomorrow." "I don't want to leave. I like living here. But I understand if you want us to go. My teacher says everyone deserves respect, even old people." I smiled sadly. "Especially old people." I hugged him. And in that hug, I remembered why I was fighting. Not only for myself, for them. To teach them that love without respect is not love. That family is not an excuse for abuse. That older people are not disposable. I went upstairs and prepared for bed. Tomorrow would be Monday. Tomorrow at 5, I would know whether my family chose to respect me or chose to leave. And although not knowing hurt, I slept with a clear conscience. Because I had finally told the truth. And no matter what happened next, that was already a victory. Monday arrived with brutal clarity, as if the universe itself knew this was the day everything would be decided. I woke early and dressed carefully. Black trousers, a crisp white blouse, my pearl necklace. I wanted to look exactly like a woman who knew her value. I ate breakfast alone, black coffee and toast. Simple. Enough. At 9, I left the house. I did not tell anyone where I was going. I no longer owed explanations. I took a taxi to the bank. I needed to confirm every change was complete. The account officer, a young woman named Patricia, greeted me with professional kindness. Mrs. Whitaker, everything is ready. The rent from your properties will now be deposited directly into your personal account. Mr. Hale no longer has access. Mrs. Claire Hale no longer has authority. Perfect. Patricia showed me the statements. In 2 months, when the next deposits came in, I would have full control over my income again. $3,800 a month. Money I could use for myself, for my needs, for my future. Is there anything else I can do for you? Patricia asked. Yes, I said. I would like to open a separate savings account with a specific goal. What goal? A small apartment for one person, just in case. Patricia nodded. She did not ask questions. Perhaps she had seen similar cases before. Older women reclaiming independence while still hoping they would not need to use it. I left the bank feeling powerful. I had options. I was no longer trapped. I walked through the city without hurry. I entered a bookstore and bought 3 novels I had wanted to read for years, but never allowed myself the time. Then I went into an elegant cafe and ordered a cappuccino with carrot cake. I sat by the window and read 30 pages. No one interrupted me. No one needed me. No one asked me to serve anything. It was glorious. At 3 in the afternoon, I returned home. Claire was sitting on the sofa, her hands clasped tightly together. Nervous. Marcus was not there. Where is your husband? I asked. He went looking for work. I looked at her. Really? Really, Mom. He went to 3 repair shops today. He said he is willing to work as an employee if necessary. That is good. Mom, I need to tell you something before 5. I sat across from her. I'm listening. Last night, after everyone fell asleep, I stayed awake thinking about everything. These 5 years, who I was before I got married, who I became afterward. And what did you discover? That I lost something. Something important. Dad used to tell me, Claire, never let anyone dim your light. And I let Marcus dim mine little by little without realizing it. She took a shaky breath. He never asked me directly to become smaller. But every time I had a different opinion, he got upset. Every time I wanted to do something without him, he became jealous. And instead of defending myself, I adapted. I made myself smaller so he could feel bigger. Her eyes filled with tears. And with you, it was worse. Because you were stronger than me, more secure, and I think he felt threatened by that, by your independence, your intelligence. Instead of defending myself and defending you, I allowed him to make you smaller too. I waited while she gathered herself. This week, when I saw the documents, when I heard everything you accomplished, everything you and Dad built, I realized something. What? You are not the useless old woman Marcus called you. You are the smartest woman I know. And I was so stupid that I forgot. You were not stupid, I said. You were human. Love blinds people sometimes. It wasn't love, Mom. It was fear disguised as love. The words remained between us, painful. True. What are you going to do? I asked. I don't know yet. But I know I cannot continue like this. Marcus and I need therapy, couples therapy, individual therapy, whatever it takes. If we stay together, it has to be real. Not fear, not convenience, a choice. And if it does not work, then I will learn to be alone, like you. I am not alone, Claire. I am with myself. That is different. She gave a sad smile. You are right. At 4:30, Marcus arrived. He wore jeans and a work shirt. He looked tired, defeated, but there was something different in his eyes, something close to humility. Evelyn, he said when he saw me, can we talk before 5? Go ahead. He sat beside Claire. He breathed deeply several times before speaking. I am not going to justify myself. What I did was wrong, very wrong. I took your money without asking. I treated you with contempt. And worst of all, I convinced your daughter that it was acceptable. Why? I asked directly. He looked down. Because I felt small, always. You and Henry had achieved so much, and I was just a mechanic who wanted to be a businessman. When my business failed, instead of admitting it, I kept pretending. I kept spending. I kept living as if everything was fine. His voice broke. And the easiest way to feel big was to make you feel small? He lifted his eyes. Now I understand that did not make me big. It made me a coward and an abuser. The word hung in the room. Abuser. He had said it himself. I went to 3 shops today, he continued. 2 said they would call me. The third offered me a job starting tomorrow, basic mechanic. The salary is low, $1,200 a month, but it is honest. Will you take it? Yes. Claire took his hand. And I will take extra shifts at the hospital. Between us, we can gather enough each month. It will be hard, but it will be honest. And my proposal? I asked. They looked at each other. Then Claire spoke. We want to take the first option. The 6 months, the $500 rent, the $48,000 debt, the monthly payments, the therapy, the respect, all of it. Are you sure, Marcus? I asked. 4 years of payments, $1,000 every month. I'm sure. And if it takes longer, I will keep paying until it is done. It is the least I can do. And the master bedroom is yours, Claire said firmly. We will clear it out this weekend and help you move back. And the children? I asked. We spoke to them, Marcus said. We explained everything. Mason asked if he could help clean the yard to pay Grandma back. Lily said she wants to cook with you on Sundays and make your favorite food. My throat tightened. They do not have to do that. Yes, Claire said. They do. We all do. Because for 5 years we made you invisible. Now we need to help you become visible again. To us, to them, to yourself. I looked at the clock. 10 minutes before 5. All right, I said finally. I accept. They exhaled as if they had been holding their breath for days. But let me be clear. This is your last chance. If you disrespect me again, if you miss payments without honesty, if you make me feel the way I have felt these last 5 years, there will be no second option. Understood? They said together. And one more thing. I want real time with my grandchildren, not just being in the same house. I want conversations, cooking, stories. I want them to tell me about their lives because that is what hurt most. Losing them while they were still under my roof. I promise, Claire said through tears. I took out my phone and called Arthur. We have a decision, I said. They chose the first option. Good, Arthur replied. I will prepare the documents. Bring them tomorrow at 10. After I hung up, the 3 of us sat in silence. But it was not the old silence, not cold, not hostile. This silence was fragile, exhausted, almost hopeful. Mom, Claire said softly. Yes? Do you think one day we can be a family again? A real one? We are already a family, Claire. We always were. The problem is that for 5 years, we were a broken family. Now we have the chance to become a healthy one, but that requires work every day from all of us. We will do the work, she promised. That night, the 5 of us ate together. We ordered Chinese food because no one had the strength to cook. For the first time in years, conversation flowed. Mason told me about school. Lily asked whether I like spring rolls. Marcus asked my opinion about a repair issue and actually listened to my answer. Claire poured me tea without being asked. Small gestures, tiny ones. But after 5 years of invisibility, every small gesture felt monumental. Before I went upstairs, Claire stopped me. Thank you for not giving up on us. I did give up, I said. She looked startled. I gave up being mistreated. That is different. She nodded slowly. I know, and that is why I admire you more than ever. She hugged me. In that hug, I felt something I had nearly stopped believing in. My daughter loved me. Perhaps she had forgotten how to show it. Perhaps fear and bad choices had buried that love under layers of silence. But it was still there. And now we were digging it out together. The first 2 months were complicated. Marcus started his job at the repair shop. He came home with grease under his nails and wounded pride in his eyes. A man who had once called himself an owner was now taking orders from a boss 20 years younger than him. I could see the frustration, the shame, but every payday he paid. He handed me $500 from his wages. Claire added another $500 from extra shifts at the hospital. They deposited the payment into my account and gave me signed receipts. Moving back into the master bedroom was almost unbearable. The first night, I stood in the doorway for several minutes before entering. The room still carried traces of Claire and Marcus. Their perfume, their clothes, their mess, their life. But beneath that, I could still feel Henry. The wall where our wedding photograph had once hung. The window where he used to stand while buttoning his shirt. The bed where we had shared thousands of nights. I cried that first night, but I also felt myself returning. Piece by piece, family therapy began in the third week. The therapist was Dr. Meredith, a woman in her 50s with silver glasses and a way of speaking that left no room for excuses. In the first session, she looked directly at Marcus and said, "Are you aware that your behavior toward Evelyn qualifies as financial and emotional abuse?" Marcus stiffened. "I never hit her. Abuse does not always leave visible bruises," Dr. Meredith replied. "Sometimes the scars are internal." Session after session, she uncovered uncomfortable truths. Marcus had grown up in a household where his father treated his maternal grandmother like a servant. He had watched it for years. He had absorbed it. Then he had repeated the pattern without questioning it. "That does not excuse your behavior," Dr. Meredith told him. "But it explains where some of it came from. Understanding the origin is the first step toward changing it." Things improved slowly, very slowly. Marcus began saying thank you when I cooked. He asked if I needed anything before going to the store. He stopped taking the remote from my hand. He stopped sitting at the head of the table automatically. Claire changed too. She defended me. The first time Marcus made a sarcastic comment about my food being a little salty, Claire cut him off immediately. "If you don't like it, cook for yourself." The silence that followed was spectacular. Marcus looked at her in surprise. Then he lowered his eyes. "You're right," he said. "I'm sorry, Evelyn. It's good." But healing is not a straight line. In the third month, Marcus relapsed. He came home from work furious. His boss had scolded him in front of other mechanics for a mistake. He entered the house slamming doors, muttering curses. I was in the kitchen making noodle soup. He walked past, looked into the pot, and muttered, "Soup again? Can't you make something different?" It was instinctive, automatic. The old Marcus surfacing in a moment of weakness. But this time, I did not stay silent. I turned off the stove and faced him. "Excuse me?" He realized immediately. "Evelyn, I didn't mean—" "Yes, you did. And let me remind you of something. You have two options. You can be grateful for what is available, or you can prepare your own food. What you will not do is disrespect me in my house again. Is that clear?" Claire had entered just in time to hear. She stood beside me. "Mom is right. Either apologize properly, or tonight you eat somewhere else." Marcus looked at both of us. For the first time, I saw true shame. "You're right," he said. "I am sorry. Truly. I had a terrible day and took it out on you. That was wrong." "No," I said firmly. "It was not acceptable. It won't happen again." And it did not. That was the last significant incident. Then came the blow none of us expected. 4 months after the ultimatum, Marcus came home at 3 in the afternoon. He never came home at that hour. He was pale as a ghost. Claire stood up immediately. "What happened?" I was fired. The room went silent. "Why?" Claire asked. "Staff cuts. I was the last hired, first fired." Claire sank onto the sofa. "Oh, God. We owe your mother in 5 days." "I know," Marcus said, his voice broken. "I know." I watched them unravel. Part of me, the wounded part, felt a dark satisfaction. "See? They cannot keep promises. They cannot sustain change." But another part of me, the mother and grandmother part, felt something else. "Do you have savings?" I asked. Marcus looked ashamed. $300. Claire? $200. We were going to use it for Lily's school payment next month. I calculated silently. 500 total, half of what they owed. I could demand the full payment. I could use this as the reason to evict them. I could sue for everything. I had warned them. I would be within my rights. Marcus looked at me like a cornered animal. Evelyn, I swear I will look for work today, tomorrow, every day. I'll knock on every door. I just need time. How much time? A month? 2 at most? Please? Claire knelt in front of me. Actually knelt. Mom, please. We have been trying. Truly, this is not lack of will. It is circumstances. Circumstances are part of life, I said. You should have prepared for this. You should have saved more. You should have had a plan. You are right, Claire cried. You are completely right. But please do not make us leave now. The children are in the middle of the school year. Marcus will find work. I will take more shifts. We will pay you everything. I looked at them, desperate, ashamed, humiliated, and I realized something. This was exactly the lesson they needed. Not the public humiliation Marcus had given me, not cruelty, but the private humility of understanding that actions have consequences. That dependence requires respect. That promises me nothing until tested by hardship. All right, I said finally. I will give you 2 months. Marcus stared at me. Really? With conditions. This month, you pay what you can. The $500 you have, next month you pay $1,500 to compensate. And if in 2 months Marcus still has no job, we sell the Nissan. Marcus swallowed. The car? The car you bought with my money. I needed to look for work. Then find work before the 2 months are over. He nodded slowly. Deal. One more thing. From today onward, every dollar you earn and every dollar you spend goes into a notebook. Every week, you show it to me. Total transparency. My trust was broken. It will be rebuilt slowly. We will do it, Claire promised. The next 2 months were hell for them. Marcus knocked on doors at more than 50 places. 48 rejected him. 2 offered terrible salaries. He took the better one, a job at an auto parts store for $900 a month. Claire worked 14-hour shifts. She came home barely able to stand. The children became more independent out of necessity. Mason learned to heat leftovers. Lily learned to fold laundry. I watched, not with cruelty, but with the quiet understanding that difficult lessons are often the ones people remember longest. During one therapy session, Dr. Meredith asked me, Evelyn, how do you feel watching your family struggle like this? Conflicted, I admitted. Part of me feels sorry for them. Another part feels this is necessary. They needed to touch the bottom to learn. And if they do not manage, then they will learn another lesson. That actions can have permanent consequences. Marcus, who had been silent, spoke. Evelyn, do you hate me? I looked at him. No, Marcus. I have never hated you. But I will not save you from the consequences of your decisions anymore. That would not help you. It would make you weaker. He lowered his head. You are right. Then, after a pause, he added, and do you know what the worst part is? I think I finally understand how you felt for those 5 years. Working until you're exhausted and still feeling it isn't enough. Giving everything and feeling unappreciated. It's horrible. Yes, I said softly. It is horrible. That is why I never want to feel it again. You won't, he said. I swear it on my children. For the first time, I believed him, not because of his words, but because the words were now backed by effort, sacrifice, and humility. At the end of the 2nd month, Marcus handed me an envelope, $1,500. He had gathered it from wages, weekend repair jobs, and every cent he could save. Here it is, he said. Complete. I took the envelope. Well done. He hesitated. Can I keep the car? For now, I said, but it remains a reminder. He nodded. Every time you see it, remember what you did wrong. I will. As I placed the envelope in my drawer, I realized something. I was not only recovering money, I was recovering my dignity, and they were beginning to recover theirs. Because dignity is not given, it is earned, with respect. with effort, with humility, with the courage to face what you have done. 5 years earlier, grief had silenced me. Fear had made me small. Love without boundaries had turned me into a servant in the house I built. Then one cruel joke at dinner woke me from a long sleep. They called me a useless old woman. They forgot who had bought the table they ate from. They forgot who had paid for the roof over their heads. They forgot whose labor, intelligence, and sacrifice had created the life they were spending without permission. They forgot that I had once been strong, so I reminded them. Not with revenge, not with screaming, not with cruelty, but with documents, with boundaries, with truth, and with the quiet power of a woman who finally stood up from the table and said, "Excuse me." That was the night they laughed, but it was also the night I stopped being invisible and became myself again.